Last Christmas, my brother had a cancer scare. They thought he had lung cancer. He does not have lung cancer. He had some kind of fungus on his lungs that mimicked the symptoms, right? Okay. My brother and I weren't really talking when, and then that's kind of what made us start talking again. We're not really talking again, though. um, there's a lot of motherfucking despair in my family, and we all deal with it in different ways. Some of the ways we deal with it affects other people, though, and I have a lot of animosity for that. A lot of people go to drugs, and let's drugs like fries your fucking empathy, dude, and yeah, it sucks for everybody you leave behind, basically, because you're leaving people behind when you like jump into a pool of drugs. You're totally leaving people behind, and all of your little splish splashing hits them in the face and fucks up their hair, and it sucks. Okay, but when my brother had that scare, you know, I found out the full extent of something. Okay, so my great grandmother, when we were born, she started UT or UG, UGMA or UTMA accounts for us. Those are accounts that are supposed to be fucking badass and irrevocable. You open them in a minor's name with their social security, and anything you put into it is legally the minor's. There's no fucking. It's not a debate. Like, it's like a law thing. It belongs to that child, and they will have a grown up attached to it as a custodian. And my grandmother was attached to ours as our custodian. Okay, so obviously, what I'm okay. We were supposed to have access to these accounts at either 18 or 21. It depends on the state, right? Some rare instances you can hold off until the kid's like 26. And they're very contentious and they're provocative, and a lot of times advisors will advise against opening these accounts because they are so fucking black and white. There's not a lot of wriggle room for law interpretation. If you change your mind about putting that money in there, it doesn't fucking matter. It belongs to the kid, right? If you decide your kid's kind of a piece of shit and doesn't deserve it, it doesn't matter. If your kid's kind of a fucking fuck off but he's gonna blow through the money, it doesn't matter. Like, right? Well, okay. I have a memory in my mid 20s. My family had us sign some papers, and we weren't allowed to ask questions. That's illegal, by the way. If you turn the UT or UGMA account into a joint brokerage account, you have to like have the permission of the minor, of the person whose motherfucking social security it's attached to, social security number, right? So the fact that we weren't allowed to ask questions, right? But my brother, unfortunately, has a very vivid memory of the guy that had us sign the papers. He looked at him and he had a big grin on his face, and he's like, "This is really gonna help you someday, son. You're gonna be able to buy a house or something." Honey is what we called my great grandmother. She was a very smart woman. She didn't accidentally make those accounts for us, right? She would go on to make two more, at least, for his children, my brother's children. So, I find out about these accounts and I think so many things. I think of a lot of fucking. I think of the time that I was. I think of the time that my little face was little. My fat face was squished into the floor, saying that I couldn't breathe over and over again. You can breathe. If you can talk, you can breathe. And then I flipped over and I had to recite that I'm unlovable, that I'm a fat bitch, that my boyfriend at the time only fucks hot chicks. And when I called my family and they told me to lose weight and cook more because I couldn't afford that house on my own, motherfuckers, yes, actually, I could have. I goddamn very well could have. I could have repaired my house after the flood. It didn't matter that my fucking darling, charming ex got all pissed at me for being pregnant and canceled all the insurance because I wouldn't abort, right? I could have fixed my house. I could have replaced my car. I wanted to send my mom to rehab. I wanted to send my aunt to rehab. I could have done that easily. I wanted to send my brother to rehab. I could have done that. It pisses me off. My brother, instead of, okay, so these accounts became joint brokerage accounts, right? But we were terrified to ask about these accounts. We were forbidden from. Cody asked about these. He had a keen intuition, right? When he was 14-ish, he asked Honey, my great-grandmother, about he's like, I want to learn stocks. I want to understand, because she'd give us cards every year. It would say this many shares of this many shares of that. That was going into the account. And my brother was curious. And Honey mentioned to my grandmother that Cody was asking questions. And Cody got his ass chewed, and she said, "Don't be a greedy pig." And then Honey felt really bad, so she wrote down some of the stocks and slipped him a piece of paper, here, these are some of the stocks you have. But you just, it's amazing the kind of, I don't know, man. Think about horrible things people have said to you that stay with you now, right? You don't even have to be a kid. But when you're a kid and you hear insults, I mean, that's a lifetime of mulling it over in your mind, trying to prove to yourself it isn't true, fearing it's true, believing it's true. Fuck. My grandmother has said a lot of nasty things to us. She said a lot of nasty things to my mom. It's kind of like that thing where old people are just racist, whatever. Come on. They're just difficult. That's just how they are. Times were different back then. Fucking times evolve, man. They change. Times are changing constantly. And you have to keep up. You have to. Wealthy people are used to getting whatever the fuck they want because they deal with such impeccable customer service everywhere they go. People want to make them happy because they want their business. And it gives them this fucking fucked up, skewed sense of, they think they're always right. They truly think they're always right. It's unfortunate because they are not always right. It makes them difficult, right? And sometimes it's not about wanting somebody's business. You just want them the fuck out of your face. So you agree, you acquiesce, you do whatever it takes to satisfy them so that shut the fuck up and they get the fuck out. But then they walk out that door thinking, see, I'm so right, I'm so right, I'm so right. Instead of my brother being able to buy a house with that account, as he was losing his fucking house, as he was trying to file for bankruptcy, my grandmother had him sign over the account completely to her. While all the while saying he was still a greedy pig, he was scared he was going to lose a buck. It was never his money. I mean, blatant lies, you know? It was his money. It was absolutely his money. And if Honey didn't want him to have any of that shit, she wouldn't have put any of that shit aside for him in an account under his fucking social security number. So anyway, when my ex-boyfriend tried to intervene as much as he could. You know, he was like, "I tell your brother not to sign that. I wouldn't sign that if I was him." But I was fucking scared of my grandmother, but I also trusted my grandmother, and if she said it wasn't his, it wasn't his. And again, in case I haven't said this before, my ex-boyfriend was the smartest human being I ever personally knew. But that's the dynamic in my family. You don't want to piss off my grandmother. And she's always right.